That is Oregon 95 and Iowa 80. And as the sage prophet Brian Flanagan once said in the movie Cocktail, everything ends badly. Otherwise, it wouldn't end. Now, that's not always the case in the NCAA tournament. Somebody wins 6 games and cuts down the nets. And if you win 3 games or 4 games, you feel pretty good about yourself over time. But for this Iowa team that was seeded second, that spent the vast majority of the season, I think all but 1 week, ranked inside the top 10, to fall in the round of 32 and losing in the fashion in which they lost to Oregon is definitely going to leave a mark on the collective psyche of the Hawkeye fandom for quite some time. And it's understandable. It's understandable to be disappointed and upset. And I'm certainly not going to tell you what to do or how to feel. I am going to suggest, however, that you don't take it out on the players on social media like Ohio State fans did last week, going after E.J. Liddell and other players with very insensitive, very inappropriate, and threatening ways. I know that the vast majority of Iowa fans are not going to do that, but there's probably going to be a point of a percentage that will, and they're going to look like the fool, and they're going to just don't be one of those people in case you were thinking about it. I'm sure that you weren't. Man, did not see that type of loss coming. And I picked Iowa to make it to the Elite Eight. I assumed that they would be playing Oregon in the round of 32. So I picked them on my bracket to advance to the Sweet 16. So I was surprised that they didn't. But the more time I spent this weekend watching Oregon highlights from their games this season, the more concerned I grew. And I wrote this up in my pregame, what do you want to call it? Just teaser yesterday that I tweeted out, that Oregon reminded me of a poor man's Ohio State, but also defensive on the perimeter defensively. They reminded me a lot of Indiana. And that is that they have really athletic guards with long wingspans that are difficult to get around when you have Iowa's collection of perimeter ball handlers. And we're talking about tales as old as time here relative to the NCAA tournament. For the last 25 years, at least, if not longer, you are talking about a guards game. And when I say guards, everyone puts guards on the floor, but not everyone puts guards on the floor that can beat you off the dribble, get past that first line of defense, and cause the other team to make some significant defensive adjustments. Dana Altman in this game clearly came out and took a page out of the book of what, Michigan tried to do a season ago against Luka Garza, and that is, we're going to let Luka get his. We're going to play you heads up. We're going to play you straight up. And this is a team that didn't start anybody over 6 feet 6 inches tall. Luka Garza comes out, ties an Iowa NCAA tournament record with 36. Garza was 3 of 4 from range, 14 of 20 overall from the floor. But Oregon was determined to not let Iowa's 3-point shooters beat them. They were okay playing Garza heads up, believing that they were going to be able to score because they were one of the top 15 best offenses in the sport. They were a top 23-point shooting team nationally. So Dana believed that his team was going to be able to get points in transition, get points off the bounce, which they did. I mean, this was a defensive nightmare for Iowa, really. You either choose to play man-to-man defense when your starting guards can't stop the driving ability of Oregon, or you back off and play zone, and Oregon goes 7 of 14 from 3 in the first half and 11 of 25 for the game. That was your pick there. Iowa winds up 18 of 25 from three, but they were 4 of 16 whenever and Iowa was down by like 16 or 18 points. So they picked up a few more threes later in the game when it didn't really matter. And that's because Oregon's guards can close out on you, close out on these Iowa guards without fear. They could close out on the Iowa guards without fear. John, what do you mean by that? Well, what I mean by that is Iowa's guards aren't going anywhere off the dribble. And if they do get past that first line, if someone's coming to close out and run like we saw CJ Frederick do several times, it's that head fake, one dribble in, then what are you going to do? Iowa doesn't have the 6'4", 6'5", 6'3" athletic slashers that can finish at the rim. And Iowa hasn't really had that for the better part of the last 30 years. And if you've listened to my podcasts or read articles that I've been writing for the better part of the last 20 years, you will certainly have heard me write or say that before. It's a guards game. And with the greatest scoring center in the history of the Big Ten, who scores 36, it's still a guards game, meaning you have to have athletic guards that can shoot the three and make the three, and you have to have athletic guards that can get past the first line of defense and finish at the rim. Joe Wieskamp is almost that. He's not an elite finisher at the rim. He's probably average. And right about now, I take 2 or 3 more average. And he's an elite shooter. And this isn't a criticism of Joe. This is the collection that Fran had for this year's team. And unfortunately, in the NCAA tournament, it's a guards game. It's an athletic slashing guards game like you've seen from Villanova in recent vintage. And it's going to continue to be. And that we'll see if that continues to be a problem for Iowa. And we'll talk more about the future going forward. Marc Morehouse joins us now as well. Marc, whether you intended to let me prattle on for 7 minutes by myself or not, I appreciate that you did.
Do you feel better?
I do. I just had to get things out. It's like I tell my daughter, like all last summer when I was retired for a while, I had this little shadow blog that I wrote things on and nobody knows what it is and nobody's ever going to know what it is. I just needed to get things out of my head and I did. But that was an unexpected result.
Style of play, I've been covering Iowa sports for however many years, 25 years or whatever, since 1990. Style of play has been a big complaint a lot of times with Kirk Ferentz and the football team. They do things a certain way, no risk averse, field position driven.
Right.
People when they see, okay, I'm just going to go right to Ohio State 2009, minute and a half left. Well, you got to go for it. That's right. Just it. This team, it's amazing. The 3 players that you expect so much out of and have delivered in so many ways, in my opinion,
right.
For this team. I'm sorry, this light keeps going off because I keep hitting it. Connor McCaffrey, CJ Frederick, and obviously Jordan Bohannon. 3 guys who've come, changed the culture, really have come through in so many ways, John. Absolutely nullified in the first 10 minutes of this game. Couldn't be on the court, couldn't help you an inch, couldn't move the ball at all, didn't belong out there, and McCaffrey took him out of the game. I mean, they didn't get a lot of minutes after that. Mm-hmm. I've never liked Iowa's plan B when it couldn't run the ball in games. Then you have to depend on a passing game that you're not even sure you even like. This puts a lot of onus on, Joe Toussaint. Let's have some minutes here in the biggest game in 20 years. You got to be more flexible. You have to build more flexibility in what you can do. Now, McCaffrey's probably really sewn in with the style play. When we've seen this, it's 11 years now. I think that there's probably a flaw in the guard thing, and you really need to let go of big guards who can't move. Get them out of there. It's not working. It'll get you to the Sweet 16, and it's going to piss, or not Sweet 16. It'll get you to the 32, and it's just going to piss everybody off. Here we are again. It's a Sisyphean thing for Iowa basketball, and if not now, with the best scoring center in the Big Ten history, I don't know when, guys. I don't know when.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that's probably crashing home in the minds of many people right now. You had your best season since, I think, the best team since 1987, and that 87 team, made it to the Elite Eight. They were also down at half against a UTEP team who was a 7 seed in that 1987 tournament. They were down by 4 at halftime. Somebody tweeted out I'd forgotten that, and it was a rather close game. But yeah, if not now, when? And I have a hypothesis of when, and it's
lay that out for people because they're pissed, John. The people are pissed, and you know what? It's time.
Sure. And this is a good place to vent, just not at the players, not at the players.
And before you go on to your thought, please remember your thought. I probably wouldn't. This was on Fran too. I mean, he got outgunned very, very, very in very short order by Dana Altman. Dana Altman's a great. We talked about this, but in our last podcast, I said the X factor for me in this game is Dana Altman. He's a really good coach who knows Iowa really well. Man, like a goddamn violin.
Yeah, he does. I don't know what other buttons Fran could have pushed today. Okay, I don't, and I'm not sitting here.
There wasn't any. There wasn't.
I'm not trying to be.
It's how the team's built. It's how the team's built.
That's it. He's outmanned. You said that in your first 2 words there a minute ago. He was outmanned, and Fran tried to bring in the second wave. And he tried to bring people in. Patrick had it was working 46-46. Then it was like an 18-4 run, or 46-42, Iowa led. And bam, then Oregon went crazy because, again, you pick your poison with them. If you zone them, they're a top 23-point shooting team, and they will beat you, and you're not a good zone team because you don't play zone regularly. Or you try to man them, and you don't have perimeter defenders that can stop their athleticism and ability off the bounce. You're damned if you do. You're damned if you don't. That's why I was tweeting in the first half at the halftime that Iowa was so poor from 3-point shooting, et cetera. And people are like, well, John, it's not the offense, it's the defense. And I'm like, yeah, it is the offense because they aren't stopping Oregon. They're going to have to keep up with Oregon.
John makes a good point. Jesus, Marc, Ducks had talent. It was not coaching. Yeah, John, I think you're probably right.
But isn't it coaching at some
coach
point?
Puts the team together. The coach has a style of play. And you get to the NCAA, the Sweet 16 round. Oh boy, it does come down to players a lot of times. It really does. John is right. That's a great point.
It's Jims and Joes and less X's and O's.
I think John Miller is right that there weren't a lot of buttons for Fran to push. It's your style of play. It's how you're built. It's Is it Connor being on the team and being the coach's son makes it really hard for guard recruiting?
Has been.
I don't know. If we're going to go under the hood and pull out all the wires, there's another one.
Yeah,
there's another
one. That's certainly been a challenge. It's why Christian Williams transferred, and I'm not saying Williams was any. I mean, he didn't go on to much fame and fortune post Iowa, but it has been a challenge. It's not that Fran hasn't tried to get those bigger athletic guards. It's just that he hasn't been able to get them. Okay, so it's not for lack of trying. It's just, and it's not style of play for me either. We're going to see a team next year that I think's top 30 potentially in offense and defense nationally. But it's a matter of what he's been able to put together. Peyton Sandiford's a phenomenal shooter. Looking forward to watching him play, but he's not going to be a guy that's going to beat you off the dribble a lot. Patrick McCaffrey and Keegan Murray, to me, are very intriguing players into the goulash pot going forward because they're going to draw taller defenders because they can go mouse in the house and run some high-low posts with both of them. They're going to create some mismatch problems. And, can Perkins and Toussaint, maybe Ulyss, can those guys be those guys that can get past people off the dribble? Then once you get past them, then you're kicking out to a CJ Frederick. I don't know. I'm intrigued, but Iowa needs to get more wings with good ball handling skills that are athletic, that can get around the first line of defense and finish at the rim.
100%. You can't find that in the tournament. And a lot of people are making Torque. It's a big picture issue. The coach is responsible for recruiting / scouting, but it definitely wasn't an in-game coaching issue today. Maybe a preparation. Maybe I'm being too hard on McCaffrey. Maybe a preparation issue. Maybe coming up with the idea that might nullify that. But the hard part about sports is you don't know how bigger and stronger and faster the other guy is than you until you're on the court or on the field with them. So easy for me to say. I think the glaring thing from this game was Iowa's 3 experienced guards, and I don't even want to count Frederick in that. His year has been an unplugged year for him.
Correct.
And I think he's been a bonus. He's been get what you can get out of him. He's a bonus, but it exposed, the whole 3-pointing thing. I mean, every complaint that Iowa fans have had about Iowa not getting to the arc, Iowa not playing good defense, Iowa not being quick enough to handle guards, not being able to cap speed. Right. That all came true in the first 10 minutes today.
Right. Zach H says, general reminder that Tony Perkins is 6'4" and Ulyss is 6'3". And that will be helpful. And these guys will have an opportunity this offseason. I mean, Perkins got some invaluable experience the last 2 games in this tournament. And he's going to be relied on in a big way. But yeah, CJ Frederick, it was a lost year for him with that, what I believe is plantar fasciitis. Maybe Fran will talk about it now, that the season is over.
And you know what, John, I have no problem with any coach in any level just saying upper body, lower body issue.
Sure.
I'm from the hockey world. But now, when the playoffs are over, you find out that Patrice Bergeron had a punctured lung. I think it might be people might gasp a little bit. What's really wrong with some of these guys who've really been trying to gut it through?
Yeah,
I can't.
Like Spencer Lee with no ACL.
Exactly. And then in football season, there's always a line of surgeries going in and getting the knee fixed, the shoulder fixed. So yeah, there's going to be some of that too. And instead of bitching, let's take a portion of the show here to appreciate what these guys have done, because they've pulled it as far as they can. I mean, I tweeted out that Iowa is the Sisyphus of college basketball. I mean, there's no way around that. I mean, yeah, maybe you can have nice things, but boy, oh boy, the service that Luka has put in, the way that the shine that he's put on the program. You got to think you'll be able to get big men now, because Iowa's proven that it can go and find those guys. J-Bo, I think he's boy, oh boy, he is a lightning rod. I mean, he's kind of the offensive coordinator of this team. I've kind of figured out over the years that when it goes well, it's like, hey, J-Bo Greg Davis called a hell of a game. I just did say that. I'm kidding. But J-Bo he seems to take the scorn. That fans, I guess if a guy's a talker, you kind of set yourself up for that. But I don't know. We got press conference news. CJ and Connor didn't go back in because of injury. From Tom Kasobiak here, going into the press conferences, coming out of the press conferences.
Right.
Just FYI.
Yeah.
But anyway, the praise part, John, moving it, the good service. Let's what kind of go watch would you hand these guys out the door?
I tweeted this, and this is just me. And again, I don't want to be one of those guys to tell people how they should feel. I hate it when I see reporters doing that, and I don't want to be that. So I'm speaking for myself. I can already sit here and look at this team this season that is just now finished, look back on the 27 regular season games that they gave us, that we got, in the darkest of winters that any of us have collectively ever lived through, when we were basically being told, depending on what state you live in,
Great
that
point.
you can't leave your house, or if you leave your house, you can't go to church, or you can't do this, you can't gather. Please don't gather for Christmas. Please don't gather for Thanksgiving. Please don't see your loved ones because out of safety reasons. Okay. It's been a long ass damn year, and it's been a longer ass damn winter. And basketball in Iowa was always a nice distraction and way to get us through the literal winter. The cold, the long, the short days, the dark nights. It was a great distraction to get you from November to March, when you finally saw the grass again in some winters for the first time after 4 months. This year was a distraction on top of a distraction. There was cold again. It was winter again. But then there was the COVID winter that we just had. And damn it, I looked so forward to watching these games every night. I looked so forward to doing these podcast interreactions all season long. I looked forward to sitting there and appreciating, while he was with us, he's not dead, he's just moving on, Luka Garza, who I don't believe I'll ever live to see another scoring center like that, not just at Iowa, but in the Big Ten, because he probably won't be there 4 years if he's that good. Watching Jordan Bohannon at times just drip swagger all over the floor where they needed to call the mop out to clean it up. Watching Joe Wieskamp blossom into one of the greatest shooters in Iowa basketball history.
Totally agree with that.
And it was fun. I enjoyed the hell out of it. And I'm going to remember this team very fondly. Today is a day that the disappointment of how far they didn't get, yes, that rams home. But for me, in 5 or 10 years, I'm going to remember what these guys were and appreciate it even more, because, damn it, I had fun and I make no apologies for it.
I can't top that. That's as good as it gets as far as what this team meant in my mind. I'm old Iowa fan in basketball. I watched it a ton when I was a kid because it was the only damn thing on in the winter.
Right.
And it pulled you through some days. I mean, it's 6 o'clock and it's dark, and mom reheated TV dinners again, the same ones from last night. And I didn't eat my apple cobbler. I was saving it. And there's Iowa basketball. There's Tom Davis and his pumpkin head and goofy smile. And oh man, there's great players and they're doing things. And so the pandemic, it allowed everybody a chance to get out of their heads.
We got together virtually. We all rallied around something.
Yes. And that's absolutely super important. And I don't want that to get lost in this. Yeah, today sucked. I mean, it just sucked. But you were able to commune and have community in a time where that was so strained. And that, I'm so glad you brought that up. And I said it in the football season, and the foot program gave the medical staff, the training staff, an award, Coaches Appreciation Award. I thought that was a really great gesture by Ferentz. I'm giving similar award to the basketball training staff, just keeping it together. And John, I know you went crazy. You had that picture of the lady who ran up to Luka, and you kind of took some shots, but you said kind of the quiet thing that we were all thinking, which is, guys, let's see how this team can go. I want to see this team do its thing. Right. We were robbed of that last year. We got to see it this year. Yeah, it ended probably the same way we thought it would, but we had it. And in this year, boy, oh boy, it was nice to have.
It was really nice to have.
Tyler Kluver asks a question. I got to get Tyler in. The slashing guards are the pre-snap motion equivalent. Last 4 minutes of the first half hurt like Kulik's busted ankle. Thank you, Tyler. I ain't here for no shit. That's got to be in a damn T-shirt somewhere.
Yeah. The T-shirt thing is bubbled up again this week too. A lot of T-shirt material, and one individual has decided that he wanted to do it. Tony Bussin saying that Luka is giving a legendary emotional post game on Radio Network right now. I'll look forward to trying to track that down and seeing Luka come out of the game when he did, and how Fran called a timeout for him and the emotional reaction. I've been watching Iowa basketball since 1980. That's 41 years. And I know way too many statistics. I remember way too much nuance and too much minutia from most all of those years. And I don't want to say that Luka gave more than any other Iowa player of my lifetime, because that would be disrespecting people who gave their all. Right? No one's given more to the Iowa basketball program than Luka. I've never come across any player, whether it's Iowa or any other school, that I'm aware of that worked as hard at his craft and his game as Luka Garza worked at his. And yes, it's going to pay off quite handsomely for him, likely with a 10-plus year career in Europe, making 7 figures per year. But seeing Fran call that timeout and Luka come off the court and shed a tear, I didn't tear up. But if I would have pondered it a little bit longer, because I had to hit the go live button on this podcast, so I was busy doing some things behind the curtain, I might have. That guy, he's the GOAT. He's an all-timer.
It's been fun to watch, and I think when you see a guy like Luka develop, think of the waves that sends down to guys like Agundawele. Am I saying that right? Agundale. I'm sorry, kid. Josh.
Arriba,
right?
Arriba, Andale, Agundale.
Yeah. Just think of the reverberation that Luka's work ethic sends down to a guy like that. Any younger player. You see Luka out there. He won the blah 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 last year. Well, no, he's out there and grinding and putting in the extra minutes. And so hopefully, when Iowa football had a good group of offensive linemen, like say the Gallery group in 2002-03, those guys. The next year, they probably had a good one because they saw the work ethic. They saw that Saturdays matter, but so does Monday in January when you're hauling your ass to the weight room. Right. So I think Luka is the poster kid for what development can do. And that's a thing that Fran now has, and he can show people, look what I did for this guy. This is something that can happen for you. So yeah. I think that's probably when that kicks in, that'll probably be Luka's greatest gift. I mean, rather than just himself, he's infused the program with a sense of development. I think that's a big, big deal. Because could we say that before?
I think he and Bohannon and Wieskamp, they kind of helped make Iowa basketball cool again. Now, obviously, they're not. That statement would have had a lot more oomph to it had they made it to the Sweet 16. But think of how many games this year that Iowa was on CBS Saturday or Sunday, the marquee game of the week, and how many primetime games that just weren't on the Big Ten Network that involved Iowa this year. How many big moments. Iowa was part of the highest, most viewed basketball game in Big Ten Network history. And think of all these players and kids from around the country that are in 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade that actually saw Iowa basketball play again because you turned on the TV and there were the Hawkeyes in the key featured game. And Luka had a big hand and big foot in that for this program. And you're right, Mark. I was thinking the other day, this Riley kid that Iowa just got committed last week, like a 6'11", 7-footer out of the Northeast. I'm sitting here thinking to myself, should Fran try to hire Frank Garza as a big man consultant, or ask Frank to write down and type out the workout regimen that he had Luka go through? Because it's gold. It's absolute gold.
It worked.
Yeah, it worked, but it's not for everybody. Not everyone's willing to pay that price, but most of your elite athletes, even long snappers who are elite athletes in high school, they go pay the iron price. These guys have the mentality to give it everything they have. So I'm paying Frank and Garza something for that recipe, if it's me.
And I don't want, Jordan, not a great day for Jordan Bohannon. No swag today, but he's entertained the shit out of all of us. Let's not pretend. And I want to put up Chris's post. Lots of great memes. MEMZ. They will be missed. Go Hawks. I think that's a great sentiment. I think, I think over time, as Bohannon's broadcasting career, blogging, podcasting, space casting, whatever realm he goes to, he's going to be a big star. And you're going to be able to say, yeah, I knew that guy. And so McCaffrey has 2 torn labrums is what,
yeah.
I don't know if that's true, AJ, but wow. Wow. That's the equivalent of in basketball. It's the equivalent of 2 torn ACLs. So maybe cut him some slack there. But I do want to.
Well, the guy says Connor had 2 torn labrums in both hips, and I'm sitting here saying I'm not a biologist, but isn't the labrum in your shoulder?
That's what I thought too.
But then somebody else came in. A different person said that McCaffrey has 2 torn labrums. So anyway, we'll have to see on the injury. We're kind of going on the fly with some of these things that we're bringing up.
Yeah, bring us the info. We will have the post game. I will be listening to the post game
post de facto
football, not today, but
right.
But quick Jordan Bohannon tribute type thing. He was like the Fonz. Tell me I'm wrong, John. Is he kind of the Fonz of this thing? Jordan Bohannon.
The Fonz?
Fonz of the Iowa basketball team the last few years.
Yeah, the coolest there is.
I mean that in the coolest way possible. Now, obviously, the Fonz, when the 6'8" defensive end who's getting recruited by the University of Wisconsin showed up to the fight at Arnold's, the Fonz was null and void. He had to go get his tire ironed because he was going to get whooped. To me, the Fonz didn't always win all the fights, but he set the tone. And to me, a guy like Bohannon taking those hits, going out there and saying, yeah, we're here. And yeah, maybe we're flawed, but we're here, and shut up. I just, there's an energy there that I totally love and appreciate. And that I think we're maybe underestimating.
Right. Fran definitely did say that Connor has torn labrums. And
I imagine that shoulder.
I think that it's been reported. Some couple of guys said both hips. Maybe Fran misspoke about the anatomy portion of it, but it brings this up to me. Coming out of high school, Connor McCaffrey had Major League Baseball aspirations. I never was going to be in the NBA, but he had some pro baseball. He was a professional baseball prospect. Man, at some point in time, from all the beating that you're taking in basketball, I don't know. I mean, baseball might be it. Connor's this is his 4th year on campus, right? I think this is his 4th year.
I think so. Yes.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Matt, no one under 35 gets a Fonz reference. Okay, you're right. I'm trying to think. There's no good guys on Breaking Bad, so I'll just skip it.
You know what? I'm rewatching it again. I'm fast forwarding the Skyler, any non Jesse and Walter White dialogue. I'm kind of forwarding it. Jesse is one of my favorite TV characters of all time, and I feel I want to be his surrogate father. I want to come in and help him, but I can't do it. He's making too many mistakes.
That was the beautiful part of the first sort of few seasons of Breaking Bad was the father-son thing, the teacher thing that Walt couldn't let go, and he had to get into Jesse. Best part of that was the scene when the episode where they're stranded out in the desert and they come up with Jesse pushes Walt to come up for the battery idea.
Yes.
Iowa didn't find the nickels in its pocket today to build the battery. Yeah. We did kind of a look ahead last podcast. And we're trying to figure out on our chat here what labral hip would be a labral.
Hip would be a labral tear. Someone says. A labrum is a shoulder.
Okay.
I don't know. You know what? I'm not a freaking doctor.
There's one word. There is one word that we just don't want to get mixed up here, so we'll just move along and say he's got a body injury. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, he's beat up. He takes a beating. So many times this year. And let's talk about Connor real quick. Challenged offensively from a shooting perspective. Yeah, one of the worst shooting starting guards I can recall in Iowa basketball history. Absolutely, I think he's at the top of the list. But with this, with the all-time best center in school history on your team, Connor definitely deserves the time that he's gotten. He is a tremendous passer. There's no doubt about that. All right. But one of the things that Connor did this year that allowed Iowa to be so prolific at shooting the threes is Connor played the 4 on defense almost all the time. Connor was guarding 6'6", 6'7", 6'8", big-bodied guys. All right. And Connor did really last game against Grand Canyon. Connor was guarding the 6'10" guy, and that guy was trying to back him in, mouse in the house style. Connor wasn't given any ground. He's a tough as nails. That Connor McCaffrey, I would not want to fight that kid because I think he's legit tough. And maybe next year it might not be as smart of an idea for him to be on the court as much without that automatic post presence that you're feeding. But with Luka Garza lined up, I get it.
I don't get the vibe, John, that he's out there because of his last name. I've never really gotten that. Maybe I'm being naive. There, but I really don't think he's my kid's going to play. I do think he has utility, and I think you just broke it down perfectly. Where I do think there's deficit is defensively. I think that if he has 2 torn labums in his hip, well, I can see why maybe he wasn't getting back and moving on defense like he needed to, or even shoulders. And we're talking about basketball here. You're moving your whole body. It's all part of one thing. So his utility next year, I think, needs to be objectively reviewed. Am I right on that?
Yes, I think so.
If we're talking about Spencer Petras, should he have some competition at the end of last year? And his dad's obviously not the head coach of Iowa football, but you need an objective review on his utility, period. And especially after what looks to be some sort of health stuff.
Yeah, I think so. I think the objective review is something. And maybe Connor wants to go play. I have no idea. I have not spoken to Connor ever. He's blocked me on Twitter, so I have no insight to glean on this.
There also is peer group stuff going on. I imagine J-Bo's gone. Luka's obviously going. Those are Connor's pals. And it's like a guy, Dace Richardson, when he left. I think it was in the Orange Bowl locker room. He was hurt and getting ready to go. And I thought for sure he was a slam dunk to come back the next year. But no, he said, I'm out of here. I'm going to go try to pros. It's also, you're with your peer group. I think when Anthony Nelson left Iowa football, well, his Parker Hesse was leaving. That was his bud. And, obviously Anthony Nelson went and made a lot of money in the NFL and probably will for a long, long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there was that opportunity too. But I do think peer group also has something to do with it. And maybe would be a factor for Connor next year.
Yeah.
Although his brother is on the team and his dad is the coach. So I might be talking out of my ass on that one.
Yeah. I mean, I dislike the topic is relevant, by the way. So I hate it. I hate the topic, but it's absolutely relevant. Because I felt this way for a long time. So it's not me getting softer in my old age. I don't know from firsthand experience because I didn't play it at this level, but I know the physical price these guys pay. I know how hard they're working, essentially a full-time job. When you're a football or college basketball player or college wrestler, you're working a full-time job and you have school full-time on top of that. And oftentimes you're dealing with injuries, physically demanding, mentally. This year, the mental aspect of what the football players went through in the fall, but the basketball players went through in the winter, not being able to go this, unbelievable. So I hate sitting here saying whether Connor McCaffrey should be on the team or not, or should be playing or not, but it's a legitimate conversation because he does have some glaringly obvious shortcomings.
John, I've climbed into the when the shit stinks tank way too many times. That's why I left it at objective review.
Thank you. You threw me the line, and I went into the shit stinks.
You went right down to the bottom.
I'm covered in it right now. I can't get it off of me.
I'm trying to help that.
Yeah, I know you're trying.
So where anybody else leaving?
You mean like transfer conversations?
We get to Joe.
Do you like this? There's no moratoriums on that with this.
Yeah, you know what? We could start talking about football that way too now, I think.
Absolutely, we will. I don't know that I see Joe T leaving.
No, Joe Wieskamp.
You talking about turning pro? I think Joe will go. I think for sure he's
going to back that up. My friends have been asking me about this one. I got shit for this because they're like, "What are you saying? You go pro? He doesn't have this. He doesn't have that." Well, tell the people why you think he'll go pro.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I'm not saying that your friends, when you sit there and look at a game and you look at Joe Wieskamp and then you watch the NBA tomorrow night, you're like, wait a second, Joe Wieskamp's not starting on an NBA team. No, he's not.
There you go. Yes.
But Joe Wieskamp, I don't think he's going to be a first-round pick. But what Joe Wieskamp, I think, can be, first of all, he's an elite shooter. And what he did the second half of this year, I don't know that many players in the country match. Joe Wieskamp also has a mid-range game. I'm not saying that's what NBA teams are looking for either, but he has some of it. He's one of the best shooters of any prospect in the entire draft.
100%, I agree with that.
And
he's a great shooter.
When you're looking at teams that get seeded 6th, 7th, 8th in the conference playoffs when things come down, they're probably going to go pick in the later third of both the first and second round drafts. I think Wieskamp mid to late second round absolutely happens. And I think at that point in time, Wieskamp gets picked up by a team that was in the playoffs or is close to the playoffs, and they have a specific need. They aren't drafting high enough to find the next Michael Jordan, but they need Craig Hodges. Okay. They need that guy to come in.
They need Bobby Hansen.
Yeah. They need a guy to come in, play a role, and fill a role. That's right. So I think Jordan's going to go through the camps. If they'll probably have those NBA pre-draft camps this year. And if they would have had him last year, we might not have had Luka Garza. But even though I don't think Luka would have got drafted in the first round, I think Wieskamp's, again, he's engaged to be married as well. Joe Wieskamp can go make 6 figures a year playing basketball. Done. I think he's gone.
Thank you, Matt. Thanks for coming to the chat, Matt Hackenmiller, and thanks. Keep the fishing pictures coming. Don't be better than my fishing.
His name's really Hackenmiller, not that he's like trying to hack me, right?
No, he's a real dude. I've been tweeting with him for years. Okay. The Athletic has Joe W. ranked the 47th best prospect and Garza the 50th.
Yeah.
That fits right in our discussion there.
That's second half of the second round.
So you think Joe goes?
Yes.
I think you're probably right because he's been doing this for 3 years now, checking his NBA-ness, his proness, and I don't mind that. It means he's got an eye toward it. So let's assume for this discussion he probably goes. And then Dan brings up probably the X factor for next year in my mind is Jack Nunge retiring. No, I have not heard that. I've not heard anything about that. I know Chad wrote a big story. Jack, I'm sorry, I should. These guys are all Chad or Scott or
first
Marc
name
to me. Yeah. That is a huge X factor for next year. If Nunge comes back, and so the knee thing, I think is if the sewn in part of his meniscus takes. He'll be back
August.
July. August, September. Yeah. See, I'm from the days I've had my
6 months, 4 to 6 months.
I've had my knees cut open so many times and the cartilage is all gone.
I've never.
They didn't have this magic technology where they could sew your cartilage back.
Yeah, right.
I wish I could have that. I could run. So we don't know that. Obviously there was some emotional scar tissue he had to deal with this year with his father passing.
Right.
2 years of injuries. He's a really nice looking player. I think he comes back. I think Iowa kind of needs him, but there's also the X factor of, I'm kind of done with this shit. I put it out there and my knees are wrecked and
that's the thing.
Yeah.
That's the thing, Marc, that we won't be able to answer, that only Jack will be able to answer.
Right.
I think Jack Nunge will have a career making 6 figures a year playing basketball in Europe. And I don't know what Jack's other life aspirations are, but I know if you can go over to Europe, get your expenses paid and make, $500,000 to $1 million by the time you're 27, 28 years old, the advantages that gives you for the rest of your life, relative to compounding interest and things of that nature. I
which
think
is your friend, Jack.
it is your friend. So
I thought Peter Jock was going to go when it was a question for him whether to come back for his senior year or not. I thought, well, you're probably not an NBA guy. If you want to make some money, if you want to make money now, well, you make your move, shoot your shot. But he stayed. He kind of blew me away and stayed.
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, Garza was surprising to me too, because you weren't going to get any better. And until that he did, he actually improved his 3-point game. I don't know where Joe Wieskamp comes back and does any more than what he did this year. But Nunji, I think, will come back unless it's just the mental rigors of the physical toll.
Right.
If those things have taken too much a bite out of his give a damn and passion and everything that he's gone through, that would be the reason. But I think that he will come back unless there's just a lot between the years and understandably so, given the crap that he's dealt with this year.
Pain changes your mind, man. When it comes to athletics, being in pain all the time takes a toll on you. And I'm 54 and I hardly played any sports. I've got aches and pains that I hate. And if you're Jack Nunji, 22 years old, maybe, and you have stuff that feels permanent, maybe you don't want to go through that. The people are asking, John, about seeding in the Big Ten. I think this is a good topic. Obviously, the Big Ten shit the bed here. They were obviously misseeded. There is something screwy, or the entire league underperformed. I think Iowa went as far as Iowa was going to go. It hit a team like Oregon that solved it. Illinois, I'm not taking anything from Loyola. This isn't me, talking down on Loyola. But Illinois, Ohio State, I mean, that's some real bed shitting right there.
It is. It really is. And I've got to go in 7 minutes because I have day job responsibilities. That was going to happen. Going to happen, win or lose. I think when the brackets were released the other day, I'll just, and Mark and I talked about this on the bracket release show. I saw Loyola seated at 8. I said, that's ridiculous. They're a top 10 net and Ken Pom team. That is ridiculous. I still thought Illinois would beat them, but that's a horrible seeding. When we saw Oregon seeding at 7, the collective wisdom that I basically read, and after I went and did my own due diligence in this week, I'm like, this is a team that had 2 COVID pauses this year and had injuries, and they got healthy. And like, that is a pretty not favorable matchup, actually. I really liked the path that Houston had. I said I felt that Iowa and Ohio State's path as 2 seeds were the 2 toughest. And Ohio State got bounced out in the first round. Iowa got bounced out in the second round. So Big Ten, I don't know. Is it a style of play? Is it the style that the refs allow during the course of the season? And you get to this tournament and things are called differently. I don't know, but I know for Iowa's problem, it's a guards problem.
Yeah. I think the style of play thing in the Big Ten, there's got to be something to it. You see so many. You see, 20 years since a champion.
Yeah, it's getting, it's getting kind of SEC college football-ish. It's kind of annoying, actually.
So, maybe, I don't know. Here's the big idea, and here's what won't happen. I mean, you got a Big Ten conference that, we're going to fine coaches $10,000 if they talk shit about refs after games. Well, Greg Gard totally talks shit about refs after game and not a peep from the Big Ten office. So
it's pretty incredible, actually.
Well, here's the thing, John. The Big Ten office is about commerce. It's about these games being played and being played on time and the next one starting on time. It's about TV. It's not about, they don't give a shit how the team does and how their teams do in the tournament.
Right.
That's on the coaches. That's on the teams. So I don't see the Big Ten picking the hood up and we got to get rid of Borowski and this horse shit officiating we've had going for so many years because it is screwing us in the term. They are not going to do that. These are going to be the officials. The Big Ten won't change that. It just won't.
It needs to change what they tried to change a few years ago with the point of emphasis, and they called things a little bit tighter in the out of season, and then you get into January and Tom Izzo starts barking at you, and it changes, and that's the bull. That's just the bull crap of all of it. Last thing for me, I noticed on Twitter about the middle of the second half, you made an attempt to transition into football season. How'd that go?
That's my move. That is my move. If I need to take down with 1 second left in the match at the edge of the mat, I'm going to talk football and basketball.
Yeah.
It didn't go well, but it went okay. I mean, people, I think, were kind of ready. I know I am. But I think people were kind of ready. And don't Alex Padilla, man. He's got the Tom Paholski aura. He's the guy you don't think is going to be the guy, and all of a sudden he's the guy.
Yeah. Well, folks,
I'm just talking now.
Yeah. Folks, this is, we'll still have more basketball conversations. They'll be a little bit longer of a post-mortem. It deserves a longer post-mortem after we get some separation from the instant emotions. So we're not done talking basketball yet, but Mark and I are certainly very soon going to shift into a more football-centric conversation. Obviously, we'll keep an eye on the Iowa women's basketball team. Mark and I will start to have more regular non-reaction show podcasts, which we haven't done one of those yet. We haven't done a topic-based podcast, which we will be doing majority of those between now and football season. And even during football season, the majority of those podcasts will be topic-driven and not just reaction-driven. But I want to say a few things. Thank you to Barntown Brewing Company for their support of Hawkeye Podcast. Visit their website at barntownbrewing.com.
Drink their beer. It's good.
Mark can attest to that. I'm looking forward to tapping the root beer. Also, Fong's Pizza with locations in Cedar Rapids as well as Des Moines. Their website is Fong's, Fongs, fongspizza.com. And for all of your college and professional apparel needs, Heartland Flag Poles and Flags. That's heartlandflags.com is the website. We thank all three of them for sponsoring Hawkeye Podcasts and look forward to sharing more of their wares, product offerings with you in the weeks and months to come. And thanks to each and every one of you who were here all season long or just here today with these reactions. I had one of the most fun times of my professional career this year doing this in these reaction shows. I cannot promise you that I will do 31 instant reaction shows next year during basketball season, but we did however many games Iowa played this year. That's how many we did this year. And Mark, it was great having you on here for the last several of them. And I'm really looking forward to seeing where this podcast goes at HawkeyePodcast.com, where Mark and I are writing down our thoughts too.
Yeah, thanks for listening and thanks for coming over, everybody. This is a lot of fun, and John's looking at his watch and he's got deals to make. I have to go for a walk and talk to the squirrels.
Just bring a little corn in your pocket. You remind me of that Robert Goulet, Will Ferrell character from SNL. That's why I come up here, and you're feeding the deer out of your hand in your convertible in the winter.
Except with the brain of the Sean Connery character in the SNL
Jeopardy,
yes.
Yeah, indeed.
Saying random stupid stuff.
That's right. Folks, thank you as always.